The IMF is currently considering including the renminbi to its special drawing rights basket, and it looks likely this will go ahead. However, should the organisation even be looking beyond the yuan? Mark, the FT wrote that the review is about whether the IMF is willing to take serious steps towards the transformation of the international monetary system. It will matter greatly for the interplay of currencies and for financial markets. What do you make of this?
Obviously, this is partly an economic issue and partly a political one. The economics of it are very straightforward. With the rise of China over the last 20 years or so, it's this historic inevitability really that the renminbi will be part of the SDR, but then it brings us very quickly to the politics, because of course the Chinese are looking to cement their position in the global pecking order and economically. And there's a sort of whole discussion about the liberalisation of Chinese markets, not just the capital markets, but also in terms of the physical trade in goods. The whole discussion about trade liberalisation plays into this whole debate. So there's a number of factors at work here, and I think the timing of the entry of the renminbi into the SDR is contingent on all of these things. I think China's still got some way to go in terms of opening up its markets, but it's only really a matter of time before it gets into the SDR.
Shouldn't they be thinking of updating the SDR criteria to make it a framework for new international currencies?
That's a possibility. Obviously, this is again contingent on the way in which the global economy is evolving, how the pattern of trade is changing, how the capital flows are changing. And obviously the big change that we've seen really has been led by China. Of course, it's somewhat ironic that this should be happening at a time when people are now beginning to question whether China will continue to grow as rapidly as it has in the past. But actually, most economists would say that China is inexorably still growing in importance, even if it is rebalancing its economic model.
But surely greater international currency diversification is the way forward in the ever-increasing globalised economy?
Of course, there are other ways of doing this if you're an investor. I mean, the SDR is more of a status symbol, I think, from the perspective of many investors. And obviously the prominence of a currency in the basket is something which policymakers spend a lot more time worrying about than most companies or investors.
The increasing importance of China and emerging markets has not really been reflected in international financial and exchange markets. This has to change soon. How do you foresee this happening?
Ultimately, we have to say that the economic power of China in the emerging markets is going to prevail, but obviously a lot of people are not willing to give up their seats at the top table, and that's not just a question for the US but also for some of the leading European nations.
So finally, the IMF's decision on the renminbi will have repercussions worldwide. If it doesn't include it this time, what could be the knock-on effect?
This has been a long-running story. The Chinese obviously have this long-term aspiration, and obviously the US in particular is standing on the other side of this, looking to see what it's going to get in return for allowing the renminbi to join the SDR.